Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with the topic session today. And today we are joined by Hilderbrand Pelzer III. And oh man, great guy, involved in lots of great things, educator, writer, speaker, author of Unlocking Potential, Organizing a School Inside a Prison, just doing some great work, research, studies, practices in education and systems. And so today we're going to talk practices that aid, support, and help school climate get stronger. And first, again, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to share with us your knowledge and information, because I think it'll truly help.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, what are some of the I know off air we talked about some of the pressing issues as far as that are in our education, as far as policies, mental health, community schools. What are some views you have on policies that aid, support, and help school climate be better?
Right. So school climate and culture is very important for any school to thrive and perform at its best levels, at its highest levels. But at the same time, there are some challenges within schools, particularly urban schools, but also in suburban and rural schools, where there's a national debate around how to strengthen climate. So on one hand, there are folks that speak about establishing great student-teacher relationships. There are groups that speak to restorative practices. So how you develop character development, how do you develop those relationships with kids? And then there are those folks who believe in suspension. Kids who do, negative things within the school, you should follow the school code of conduct or the student code of conduct. And so that debate, as it plays out, has a devastating impact on schools. For example, in many of the urban areas, Chicago, Philadelphia, and some of the major cities, there's a movement towards no suspension in the younger grades, kindergarten through, say, third grade. Great practice. Students should not be suspended for issues and things that can be corrected in school through teaching and learning. But there are some things that happen in schools that are very violent, that are causing unsafe issues, kids not wanting to be around other kids, teachers afraid to intervene with kids because of being held liable for, say, breaking up a fight, and the kids say that the teacher or someone hurt them, that type of thing. So what policies should be advanced? And then there's the movement towards community schools, where there's a movement towards making certain that schools service mental health, service behavioral health, service social service inside of the schools. Then the question becomes, who does that work? Should teachers be responsible for that type of work, or should teachers be responsible for just teaching kids how to read and do math and so forth? So that issue, whether that be on Twitter, at conferences, is a big issue nowadays. And I'm of the thinking that you need a little bit of all of that. There definitely needs to be the code of conduct where schools and teachers are guided by rules and regulations about what type of behavior will be appropriate in schools. But then when that behavior is not changed through the code of conduct, then how do you handle that when kids continue to do things that are detrimental to the school environment? And perhaps those reasons for doing that is because of behavioral health and mental health. So then how do you address that when you find out that the code of conduct will not address that?
That's good. I think so. And I have my master's in educational leadership as well. And one of the things that we studied is, first off, you need to assess. And I think based on your area, based on your school, I think you have to have those assessments first to see what's needed. And then, and I totally agree. I think how you said you need to have all of those components. you know, how you're talking about the policies, the mental health, the strength and the climate, the student teacher relationships, the
Right.
character building, the behavior component, you know, as it relates to, you know, are we getting quality instruction, you know,
Mm-hmm.
based on the behaviors, you know.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, you have to assess first to see where you are, and then
Mm-hmm.
see uh, what you want to target first, which is most pressing. What are your ideas on that?
So, in depending on the level of school, elementary, middle, high, I'm gonna stick with elementary for right now.
Hmm.
You definitely want to uh, help the younger children who cannot help themselves, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So different than say the older children, the high school children who can navigate things a little bit more. But the younger children, when you see different behaviors that are beyond just a simple code of conduct issue. When I say beyond, I'm talking about very violent behavior where kids at, say, kindergarten, first grade levels have already been through crisis management, have already spent time in partial hospitalization placements at a very young age inside of schools, heavily medicated, and that type of thing. How do you manage that? And so there has to be some responsibility or partnership with schools and other agencies to help not only those children, but the families navigate resources to help their own children. And sometimes some of the obstacles is lack of health care. Some of the obstacles is that families are intimidated about how to navigate and fill out papers and work with other agencies and institutions to get help for their children. So how does the school then play its part in doing that? And so there is an aspect, at least at the younger age, to either have inside of schools or have close partnerships with schools where you can refer families to get these supports.
Hmm.
But definitely they have to get these supports because when these behaviors manifest in the classroom, it is very disruptive, it's
Yes.
very violent, it's very scary. It traumatizes the other kids who are seeing this. It involves police activity for younger children when you really don't want to involve police activity. So at the younger elementary level, there definitely needs to be a strong conversation about expanding community schools or ensuring that there are partnerships so that families that have children who have these needs can get the support that they need.
I love that. I love that. And then, you know, just based off of what you're saying, you know, you agree that at each age level, there probably should be a different focus, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Right.
So maybe, you know, elementary would be, you know, targeting behaviors,
Absolutely. You
and
know,
then go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, because so the advocates, and there are many advocates, and bless all the advocates because advocacy is important to improve education as a whole. But then you have some advocates that say, for example, no suspension for kindergarten through third grade, so to speak. But yet, when severe behaviors are demonstrated or um, are happening inside of schools, there are no resources to respond to that. Where a suspension could at least remove the child temporarily while you get them the help they need, but also it gives the other children, the other, say, 30 children and teachers in the classroom or multiple classrooms, the opportunity to breathe a little bit so that they can then move on with their educational experience.
Love that. So what would you say the focus would be like at a middle school? So if the behaviors, and I agree, I think that's just like at the house, you know, if you are taught fundamental behaviors, you know, as a kid at home, like, hey, no, we're not doing that. Hey, you know, yes, this is how we will be. This is your core common principles of what our family believes in, and
Right.
this is what you will do. And I agree
Absolutely.
that when you are taught those things at a young age, you know, you carry those things with you throughout your life. You know,
Absolutely.
as an adult man, you know, there are some things that I was taught as a kid, you know, that, you know, mom was like, boy, we ain't doing that. You know, if you're gonna do
Right.
something, do it right. You know,
That's right.
like that's the same, it's the same as what I do now, you know. And
Right.
so I agree with the fact that you have to target those at a young age.
Right.
What would targets be for like a middle school for what would you think?
Right. So at the middle school, I think, if kids get the services they need at the younger age, they can
Mm-hmm.
evolve and grow, more healthier. By the time they get to middle school, or at least say that fourth and fifth grade, going into say sixth grade or going into middle school, that restorative practice, that character development, those opportunities for say experiences that help them impact their own community and develop that way. Those I want to call them like service learning projects. That's when you can get them more involved in how their role and their responsibilities and behaviors impact their own school community and their own neighborhood community. They have to have those services though at a younger age so that they can grow. What I see a lot is kids are not getting those health or mental health or behavioral services, say at even a younger age, and it just gets worse by the time they get to fifth, sixth, seventh grade. And therein lies our real big challenge. So you want them to be in middle school and eventually high school being great citizens, great understanding of how their behavior impacts others, their ability to navigate friendships at that level, their ability to problem solve, their ability to be polite to one another and really understand their role within their own school climate. But it has to happen at the elementary grade so that they can get to that point.
And I think too, you know, you hit on behaviors, but I think that's everything. I think,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I'll use math as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as when you are young, you know, you're taught the four, you know, basic, uh, you know, deals of math. You know,
Right,
addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Well, as you get older, you
right,
know, you still have to use those same core uh, processes, but now you do more with it. So now it multiplies, you know, like, okay, in one problem, you know, I have to do division and subtraction and, you know, and that, you know,
right,
decimals and, you know, all of that stuff, you know,
right.
but it stems back to learning the early process. And I think you can relate that to anything. Like you said, it could be math, it could be any subject, it could be behavior, it could
Right.
be friendships, it could be relation. So all of those things you're taught at a young age are
That's significant.
vital.
Right.
And so let's focus on high school. What about high school? What are some focuses you would think for high school level?
So the great high schools, and there are many around the country, many here locally. When I visit those schools, what I see are the high school students really controlling the climate and environment of their schools. I see them working with each other. I see them studying with each other. I see them developing relationships across racial lines with each other. And so that is what you ultimately want to see at that level. Cultures, different diversity, different students coming together, looking towards their future, looking towards ending their high school careers on a high note. So by that point, that's what school really should be about, looking at how they will really go out into the world. But to get to that point, again, that's that evolution, whether, like you said, the prerequisite skills that you have to have,
Yeah.
whether it be math or like that example you gave, but you got to have those prerequisite skills and resources to get to that point. Without it, you'll get to high school still not knowing how to make friends, still having issues around bullying, still not knowing how to study, still not knowing how to organize your time and your space. And so that's the problem. And so high school is the opportunity. Kids should just be carrying that climate on their own, where the leaders of the school, the teachers of the school, can really facilitate learning.
Love that. I love that. Well, thanks so much for sharing, your ideas and thoughts on the school framework, if you will. Before we get off, if you don't mind sharing where they can go, purchase your book, show
Absolutely.
you some love and support, and to follow you, because I think what you're doing is amazing.
So the book is Unlocking Potential, Organizing the School Inside a Prison. The book is an educational book. It's not about prisons, but it's about reaching some of our hardest to reach scholars, those who are incarcerated students. It has the spirit behind it about compassion for children who have done some awful things. However, they still require to be taught, to learn, and to evolve, even if their space is inside of a correctional facility. And so the book also has some strategies and ideas that can be utilized in some of our tough, most challenging schools around how to build relationships, how to keep academics first and foremost, how to ensure, as we said, services are wrapped around kids who need it so that they can continue to grow. The book can be purchased at Amazon.com, OutskirtsPress.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or you can go to my website at hp3-unlockingpotential.com. And it's a great book. The book has allowed me to speak at local, state, and international conferences. I've been as far as London to speak about the book and speak about the topic of education inside of correctional facilities. I can also be reached on Instagram, Hilderbrand Pelzer III, Twitter, HP3 Potential, and also Facebook and LinkedIn.
Well, there it is. You guys go check him out, show him some love with all you're doing. Because, like I said, as you can see, it's great stuff, great research, great experience going into the education field. And, it's all information that we can, check out ourselves and learn and use to help make our environment and, educational situation be better. And so I'm so thankful for what you do, and thankful for the fact that you, have chosen to take time to share that with us. So I truly appreciate that.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate us having an opportunity to connect. And yes, I really appreciate you making me a part of this venue and this opportunity this platform that you have. So thank you, and hopefully this won't be the last time.
No, it won't be. For sure, it won't be. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out this topic session. We'll see you next time. God bless.